What is going on, everyone? My name's Boit, and I'm back with some more Age of Mythology, the Titans action, spawning in the red color, playing as Zeus. His name is the Rapl. His opponent today in the blue color, playing as Thor. His name is Suppe. The map is Frozen Wastes. This is Vividly Balanced Patch 6.0. It's all happening. Suppe has always been the Thor Meister, the Thor Master, and we'll see how things are going to go here for Suppe in this matchup, because he's now going up against Rapl's Zeus. I love this matchup. I think Zeus is really, really good here still. There's lots of different options here for Zeus, especially because this map is so aggressive. This is a perfect opportunity for Zeus to do it, build orders like 402 advanced times, 348 advanced times, 416 advanced times. Anything faster than 430 is probably going to be a pretty good idea for Zeus. And the same thing here holds true, though, for Thor, as Thor gets access to a double gold mines in this map. So you can drop that Dwarven Gold Mine and be completely happy about that one. You really don't need to worry. That being said, Suppe's base here with the double medium gold mine, a little bit exposed, but there is a nice tree blocking this in. If Rapl can get in here and start knocking on the door here, Suppe's going to be in for some serious trouble. But we already see a temple up in the middle of the map, and generally speaking, in this matchup, I would advise against the center temple. You're probably going to get into a lot of trouble, but Suppe is going for something a little bit more aggressive here than your average Thor player. This does two things. One, it shuts down a potential Hermes game plan from a Zeus player really, really early. Why? Because Hermes going center as Zeus in this matchup against either Thor or Odin, potentially even Loki as well, though I've never seen a serious centaur attempt against Loki. But against Odin or Thor, they can actually just wipe the Zeus player off the face of the planet with a big rush against that play. But if the Zeus player goes Athena here, as we're watching what's happening, how the game's shaping up, we see the temple coming up here. If the Zeus player goes Athena here, he should be able to be completely fine with a very, very aggressive Athena. The problem here, though, for Rapl is, will he get that 402 advance time or not here on this one? The temple will be up just barely here. And is he going to go for it? Yes, he is. There's the advance time, and he is going through Athena. The other problem here, and this is partly to do with the build order inefficiencies here from Rapl, is that he doesn't have enough villagers on wood right now in order to get himself double military buildings, plus get himself the Jason, plus get himself the Odysseus out all at once. The way to do that, you have to be very, very specific with your builds, and effectively you've got to get yourself 7 villagers on wood much earlier. You can see he's only at 100 wood at this point. And a lot of that does come down to the fact that he's put 2 villagers on gold early here, and he had to put a ton more villagers onto the food to get that 400 wood out. So a little bit of cleaning up on that early game, he'd have a much better time in this early game. Whereas Suppe here, you can already see he's gone for an incredibly fast advance time. He's getting himself out already with 2 Ursa, 3 Ursa at 4 minutes and 5 seconds into the game. And in Ulfsark, obviously the Ulfsark is free, but that's a lot of pain going to be coming through here onto Suppe. And Suppe's also gone through Forseti in this game as well, as we see the Longhouse coming down. Rapl at this point, you can see he's getting the Odysseus out. He can't put that archery range just down just yet. He's got himself the Jason out, and he's just a little bit behind here with a little bit too much food in the bank here. And that all stems from that early game here, like we were talking about. As the hoplites are starting to come out, we do see a little bit of a raid coming onto these villages. Suppe going to be immediately retreating away here because he's probably throwing up those buildings. He needs to get over here and defend, but that's a lot of Herser to defend this one. Rappl's going to have to retreat away, which he indeed does do so. But now the Suppe villagers can move up and eat these walruses over here or eat these elk over here. It's a really nice position to defend that. But Rappl's now on his forward hunt, or at least he should be on his forward hunt here. And he should be okay. As now the archery range is down. But this is super, super late for a Rapl to start producing military units. You can see the difference in population. 33 for Rapl to Suppe, who's at 49 population. 50 population at this point. As the army of Rapl trying to push forward here, does realize the Herser a little bit too much over here as he's going to be pulling back. If we do some quick math on this one, you should be able to be matching this army at this point here, at the very least. I think at about 6 minutes, the perfect amount of units you can have out as Zeus is roughly 55 population at 6 minutes, and we're about 10 population behind. I'm not exactly sure why that is. I think it's potentially because he's on the berries over here, which will slow him down considerably, which should mean he's got to be playing around the fact that he's getting slowed down. Now, one thing that Zeus is really, really good at against a Thor player who's building a whole bunch of Herser is to go for hoplite raids and not going for the whole units, because the hoplites, they move at 7.0 speed. They move fast enough to get away from those Herser, fast enough to take on and strong enough to take on the raiding cavalry, as we will be seeing this temple getting torn down. This is a lot of value here actually for Rapl as he manages to pick that one off. Rapl going to be pulling back for the time being here as the Herser going to be pulling around onto this position. Odysseus going to turn onto this position here and try and take out that troll. I don't think Rapl should be taking this fight. He might even be considering a restoration here, which he does go for. And Suppe is just going to very, very simply say, no worries, I will take that trade every day of the week, as the Herdables are now going to attempt to get moved back into the main base here. Does Rapl have himself husbandry? He doesn't have husbandry just yet. Is he getting it? He's not getting it either. Another military academy going to be getting dropped down here. There is a theory, a running theory that I have, which is instead of jumping onto hunt as Zeus, instead of being aggressive, get yourself an early husbandry, and then you can jump onto these herdables nice and early after you want to start being aggressive. So you still want to grab like your secondary hunt, but after that, you can kind of jump onto your herdable, sit in your base, and then you're free to be aggressive while your opponent can't really raid you, as long as you wall your base up and you're nice and defensive where that's concerned. Reason being is villagers pop out of the town center, jumping onto herdables, no walking time to get to them. They're only a little bit slower than hunt. It's something like every load of food is something like 4 seconds slower. So 4 seconds slower for 30 food. It's not a big amount of food differential in the grand scheme of things when you consider all of the walking time required to get up to the hunt and all the other good stuff that goes on there. As the temple coming up over here for Suppe as well. And Rapl now pushing across the map. Now, here's the thing. Because Rappl's used restoration, his army is no longer capable of actually beating this Thor army unless he takes really, really good fights. Now, one way to take good fights is to be sitting the Toxotes in front with your Odysseus, having the hoplites in the back and trying to snipe off throwing axemen slowly to keep the population down. But you can already see, look at this for Suppe. He's already 102 of 105 population. He is steamrolling ahead in this game in the population. And Rapl at this point, 83 of 95. He needs to get himself that little bit extra. He's got himself the 4 military buildings now. He is spamming units out very, very nicely here. But, I mean, can he even take a fight? The other way, there is one other way that Zeus can win these fights in the classical age at this point without restoration, and that's with Minotaurs. If you can get out enough Minotaurs, or even just start building Minotaurs, that can be a way to go instead of throwing down these archery ranges, put villagers onto the temple and start massing out Minotaurs. It's not a bad idea in these sorts of situations, even though there are a whole bunch of Herser here, because you just want to snipe those off, and it just means that now the Thor player can't really engage you with those raiding cavalry as well as you might think. As now Rapl moving out, 95 of 95 population. population. He's got himself the medium hoplites. Soup, on the other hand, does he have an armory? No armory just yet. A couple more longhouses are going to be getting thrown down here as Soup going to be popping through here. Do we see any upgrades? No medium raiders just yet. Rapl now grabbing the healing spring. We do see the army pushing through here. Rappel's got to get off of that longhouse. You need to start taking these fights early on with those Toxotes to snipe those units here. Hoplites can go onto the temple here. He's got access to that healing spring, which is not a huge benefit in the fight, but it's not terrible either. A bit of a miss micro there from Rapl, though, as his Toxotes are going to be getting targeted down by the raiding cavalry there. As Rappel's units kind of moving around a little bit, unfortunately. The trolls starting to come out here. The healing spring going from one player to the other player as the Odysseus can easily come over here and start sniping down that troll there. In fact, we do see a bolt forced to be used on that troll as well, as the Toxotes are still kind of getting absolutely annihilated here as Rapl, he picks off the temple, but doesn't even matter. The Minotaur getting pulled back here as well, trying to retreat away from those Herser as the Toxotes trying to target down those medium throw and axemen. But we've seen this time and time again from Norse players. Winning these sorts of fights is absolutely standard here, as a little bit of a raid over onto this position, trying to take out that ox cart does not go well, and now Soup is in a commanding position. And not only that, normally after these fights happen, those units that are kind of remaining, they're kind of injured in a big way. There's lots of low HP units left over for the Norse player, and generally speaking, you can come back in with the Zeus and maybe win the next fight. But with the healing spring up, if Soup just sits on that and gets all of his units back up to full HP, he's going to be in a fantastic position. However, we do see a town center coming up here for Soup after that one fight. This is a really, really instructive moment here from Soup. Whenever you win a fight of any sort of severity, like any sort of like huge win of a fight, the easiest way to find a serious advantage after that one fight is to get a town center, get an upgrade, or throw down a whole bunch of buildings. You've got to do something with those resources you're going to have that you're not spending on military, because your opponent needs to now rebuild their entire army, which is a lot of resources. As we're now starting to see the hoplite raids. And this is something that is, like I said it already once, but it's a really, really, really good way to play around, like mass throw and axemen and things like that, as Zeus, going for hoplite raids. They're pretty fast. 4.7 speed might not seem like a lot, but they pick off villages beautifully here, as a handful of villages will end up going down here on this position. The villagers getting pushed back. That's not what Rapl was hoping for. Meanwhile, on this position, we also see a cheeky little raid onto this wood line over here, as the raiding cavalry are going to be attempting to get some villager kills. The dwarves pulling back into the main base there as well, as Rapl getting good value. Same too for Soup, but this ends up being advantage Soup here, because he's got two town centers. And another villager up here. Well, one villager did manage to go down. The raiding cavalry not really doing anything there for Soup on that position, as he's now going to be putting his effort into taking out the main base of Rapl. Farm's going to start coming down here. We do see Rapl has snuck up onto that hunt over there. The main base here is wide open, though. Where are the hoplites? We could see Rapl go for this town center here if he wants to. He's got a lot of hoplites, but he's retreating away for the time being here. 12 hoplites is more than enough to take out a town center here. Could get himself watchtowers, and he does do so. That's enough to help him out in this defense here. But the town center, villagers on the farms, going to be a little bit weak. This army here of Rapl, a little bit confused about what to do. I definitely think if he just take the town center down, he would have been in a good spot. I don't think that Rappel's town center falls here against all of those throwing axemen. In fact, look at the damage coming in onto those throwing axemen here, as another archery range coming up over here, as the buildings are going to start getting taken out. Rapl has got himself a little bit of food in the bank. The unit's starting to take out the town center for the time being. Rapl going to be pulling his villagers in to try and repair this one back up, as the hoplites still not really sure what they're doing here. He should just pull them back at this point, because the units here trying to take out this town center are kind of caught out of position, as the villagers still pulling back in. garrisoning inside the town center is also a decent idea here for Rapl, as he's still trying to push over here, going after potentially this town center. I mean, how many hoplites has he got left? He's only got 8 hoplites on the front. It's not going to be enough here as the villagers garrisoning into the town center. Now look at the damage. It's up to 40 damage a second here. That is 2 hitting a throwing axeman on these positions here. Or maybe even, yeah, well, maybe a little bit more than 2 hitting, 3 hitting. I don't know. I can't tell. It doesn't. 1 arrow misses some of the time, I guess. But the villagers popping out here. We do see the raids hitting the gold mine, forcing Suppe back, but Suppe is still pushing it over here. The villagers are actually trading nicely against these throwing axemen, but Rapl's villager count is plummeting here, whereas Suppe, he is just continuing to do what he needs to do. The throwing axemen get sent back. The army of Rapl swinging around here, going to be searching for something to kill. The gold over here, a little bit of gold left in it for Suppe, 1,300 gold, but he's also on this position here as well. 88 population, 90 population for Suppe. To Rapl here is at 87 with, what is that? 22, 25, 26, 36 villagers to Suppe, who is like 40 villagers here, if not more. I'm not sure exactly what's happening as the villagers are moving all around. He's got nearly 50 villagers at the moment, it seems. In fact, he does have 50 villagers. So Suppe is way in front here in terms of economy. So Rapl needs to get value in this game with raids and or really, really good fights here. As Rapl, he's still utilizing this outsides of the frozen wastes here, as the villagers still chopping down the wood on this position, with the villagers on this gold mine darting back and forth there away from Rapl's raids. Nice play from Suppe, in all honesty, but the army of Rapl now searching in. Suppe's still got himself all of the herdables here. He's got the 300 food goats in his base as well, so plenty of food in the base there for quite some time, as the army still searching around for more villagers to kill, but there's really nothing left. He managed to pick off 1, but the raiding cavalry are pushing up here, going to attempt to catch Rapl out of position. Is now Rapl going for a second town center for himself. Oftentimes, a second town center here for Greek is actually the wrong way to go. Reason being is the heroic age, access to access to Hydra is a big thing. Access to Manticore potentially as well. But more importantly, access to Hypaspist and Prodromus. Really, really important here, because you can get out, say, 5 Prodromus to win this sort of a fight here. And or defend yourself against the raiding cavalry raids, and then you can get out all of those Hypaspist to deal with the units of Suppe. Suppe's now got himself full armor in the bank. Suppe loves the armory upgrades as Norse. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but Suppe's a fan. As the farms are starting to come out. Villagers on the wood nicely for Rapl. He's got himself the 2 town centers. Good raid over here, pushing the villagers off of this gold mine yet again. Only 700 gold left in that one, but a handful of units there dying for Rapl as well. As Suppe's pushed off there. He's going to move up to this top gold mine now as well. The problem for Rapl is he's only got 900 gold in his main base. He's going to have to figure out how he's going to grab this position here, or this position here. Probably going to go for the bottom gold mine there, most likely. As the granary going to come up on this position, farms coming through here. A little bit out of position, a little bit risky here, but sometimes it's better to be risky than not. In any rate, like putting the farms out over here wouldn't be a terrible idea, as the villagers getting pushed off of this berry bushes here, but a handful of units are in for Suppe. Suppe's 3 town centers, as Rapl is attempting to get himself this town center up. And Rapl here, does he have any armory upgrades? He's got no armory upgrades here in the slightest, as the hoplites coming in onto this position. Raiding cavalry get the surround here, but Rapl is using the forest nicely. Can Rapl find a win on this fight, as his hoplites trying to deal with those raiding cavalry? His Toxotes trying to deal with those throwing axemen, but same too, Suppe's throwing axemen are picking off the hoplites, and the raiding cavalry are getting onto those Toxotes beautifully here, as it seems to me that Suppe has absolutely massacred that Greek army of Rapl, and now Rapl is down to 62 population. Suppe is at 145 population. Suppe is going to be looking for raids, looking for a big push moving forward here. And Rapl is in a really, really bad position. I don't actually know what Rapl can do at this point to defend against this army. If he can't win with a 130 population army, he's not going to be able to win any fights moving forward here without some serious armory upgrades. Plus, he needs to get himself to the heroic age at some point here. So I don't know, like Minotaurs or something is an idea, but he's got no food either. So he's just in a really, really tough position. The Pegasus coming over here, going to attempt to distract those Throwing Axemen for a little bit. The Town Center is getting some good damage done, but it will be falling here very, very shortly. And in that position, Rapl does tap out as Suppe finds the dub here in this game. I think a lot of this game comes down to the fact that Suppe's build order here is crisp. Suppe's build order is as good as it's going to be, whereas Rapl's build order here, he got himself out his heroes, but his military buildings weren't out. He was floating resources throughout the game here. I'm interested in exactly what the resource total was looking like early game. You see them both hit this classical age here. How much truth does this all resources really tell you? I mean, look at this for Suppe. At this 4-minute and 15-second mark, when he hits the classical age, look at this. At 5 minutes, he's got 100 resources in the bank, whereas Rapl here is consistently floating upwards of 300, 300 resources here. He does drop down at 7 minutes and 40 seconds down to 118 resources. A lot of this is, simply put, it's just getting your units out efficiently is a really, really big thing in this matchup. And I think the Greek players, some of them are doing it. If you do go out there and you watch some Athena rushes from some of the other top Greek players, they are doing it, but you definitely need to be efficient. Maybe it's worthwhile considering not going for that 402 advance if you're going to sit in your base like Rapl did here, and going for a 430 advance with a little bit more economy, getting yourself early husbandry out so you can just jump onto the herdables instead. Get yourself a nice big army, get yourself some more economy than your opponent would because you advance a little bit later, and then push out onto your hunt a little bit afterwards. Maybe as an option if things are going really, really badly for you, if you can't work that one out. But I do think that the 402 advance, if you do it correctly, is possibly the way to go. If you guys enjoyed this one, please consider hitting the follow on the Twitch. If you're on the YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next game.